Rather in the Land, Grade 8, Act 1, Read Aloud. For more videos on the same topic and many other novels and play scripts, please subscribe my channel, Learners on Board. You can find playlists of Rather in the Land, Valley of Fear, Hidden Figures and many other novels on my channel. Prologue. The Shadow Chorus enters. Its members flood the stage, moving quickly, changing directions sharply and with no visible purpose. Suddenly they freeze. An old man appears in the middle of them. This is the Shadow Man. The chorus forms a classroom scene. Shadow Man. To own a piece of universe is to rule a slice of sky. A grain of sand at your command. Buy yourself a dream instead. Life is for living, not wishing for death. The Shadow Man becomes the teacher. One chorus member stands with a book in her hand. Begin. Act 1. Scene 1. The shop. Members of the Shadow Chorus bring on a shop counter. Danny. Off. It was really hot and the last week of school before the summer holidays. Mom and Dad were in the shop doing their usual sort of things. Serving, moaning about stuff. Richard and Mary Lodge appear behind the counter. Mrs. Troy is also in the shop with her 5-year-old son, Craig. Craig is impatient to go and kicks the counter. Mrs. Troy. It's an outrage though, isn't it, Mary? Mary. The price of progress, love. Mrs. Troy. I hate them places. You can never find what you want and you always end up buying more than you mean to. Richard. You can do that here if you like. Mrs. Troy. I won't be flocking to no supermarket. That's for sure. Mary. That's very sweet of you, Mrs. Troy. Mrs. Troy. To Craig. Pack it in, Craig. You'll scuff your shoes. To Richard. Have you got any big bottled waters, love? Richard. Only small ones. Sorry. Mrs. Troy. They said to get big ones on the telly, just in case. Mary. It will all be over in a couple of weeks. Richard. I wouldn't be so sure. Mrs. Troy. There wouldn't be any wars if them in charge had to go and fight in them. Danny. Off. No. Danny runs on clutching a Game Boy. Ben follows him. You broke it, you little sod. Richard. Less of that. Thank you. Ben. I didn't. It fell. Danny. Fell out of your hands. More like. Mary. I'm sure it was just an accident, Danny. Danny. He's one big accident. Richard. That's enough. Mary. Are you ready for school, Ben? Ben shakes his head. Richard. I'll get his stuff. To Danny. You can carry that crate into the cellar. Danny. Why me? Richard. Because now shift it. Danny exits with the crate but isn't happy about it. Craig starts kicking again. Mrs. Troy. I don't suppose you have seen old Kershaw. Have you, Mary? Mary. Not for a while. Mrs. Troy. Funny that. To Craig. Oi! Craig stops kicking and starts yawning and sighing instead. There has been all sorts going on up at that farm of his. Dirty great lorries toing and froing till all hours. You must have heard them. Mary. It has been quite up there for the past couple of weeks. Mrs. Troy. Precisely. Mary. You don't think something has happened to him, do you? Mrs. Troy. Who is to say? He might be perfectly fine. Pause. Then again, he could be lying dead for all we know. Mary, I hope he's all right. Mrs. Troy, come on, Craig. We can't hang around here all day. See you later. Mary, love. Mary kisses Ben as he, Craig, and Mrs. Troy leave the shop. A bell tinkles as they exit. Mary, you could have let her have one of the big bottles. Richard, there's enough to sink a battleship down there. Richard, 14 gallons to be exact. Danny comes back into the shop, furiously brushing himself down. Danny, any spiders on me, ma'am? Mary, no, son. Danny, to the audience, I hate that cellar. Richard, might save your life one day, son. Danny, to the audience, indicating each of his parents in turn. This is my dad, the most miserable man in existence. This is my mum. She's okay. The only thing wrong with my mum is that she made my little brother. He's the squirt you just saw. Danny picks up his school bag and leaves the shop. He stops just outside the door. This is Skipley, the most boring place in the known universe. Andrew enters. And this is my best mate, Andy. Andrew, now then. Danny, how's things? Andrew, rubbish, as usual. Danny, tongue in cheek. Andy loves Skipley too. They start to play conkers. Andrew, Rhodes is doing that talk in assembly this morning. We have got him right up to first break. Doesn't get much worse than that, does it, mate? Danny, wanna bet? I've got a dirty great history test all afternoon. If there's one thing I hate more than Rhodes, it's history. They leave. Scene 2. Assembly. Ridiculously dramatic music blasts out. Mr. Rhodes appears on a projector screen wearing a black suit and dark glasses. He is pointing to the audience. Mr. Rhodes, off, officiously. Protect and survive. The following information has been released by Her Majesty's government and is designed to save your lives, so do not muck about. An orange wavy line appears on the projector screen. The sound of the 4-minute warning siren blasts out. Light reveal Mr. Rhodes in a corner of the stage with a laptop, portable stereo, and microphone. Off. This is the sound of the 4-minute warning. When you hear this sound, you have 4 minutes. You must take cover in the nearest shelter. Photos of school pupils featuring Sophie Cartwright appear on the screen. In the first tableau, they are listening to the sky with expression of fear. In the second, they are pointing to the nearest shelter. In the third, they are running. Sophie is trying her best to look glamorous and catastrophic at the same time. In the assembly, Danny, Andrew, and a group of schoolmates are pointing out front and laughing. Andrew, they're running for the bike sheds. 3 jagged orange blobs appear on the screen with fallout warning written under them. Chris Holmes appears next to Rhodes with a gong. Rhodes gives Chris the nod and he delivers 3 loud bongs. It's the dinner warning. Rhodes, off. This stuff is highly dangerous. Danny, you are telling me? Rhodes, off. If you are out of doors and still alive, take the nearest and best available cover, then take your clothes off. More laughter. Off. Radiation sickness is not a funny subject. Use your clothes to wipe the radioactive dust from your hair and skin. Andrew, then do a streak across Skipley Moor. The assembly is in stitches. A thick orange line appears on the screen. Rhodes plays the all clear sound for everyone. Rhodes, off. If you hear this, you have survived a nuclear attack. The assembly cheers. Off. You won't be so happy when the authorities turn up to take your dead relatives away, or whatever is left of them. The assembly begins to grimace. Off. Or when you're murdered by your friends and neighbors for the clothes of the assembly begins to grimace. Off. Or when you're murdered by your friends and neighbors for the clothes of your back or for any scraps of food or for any scraps of food you might have. Maybe you will be cheering when you watch your houses burn down, assuming they weren't totally obliterated by the heat of the blast. The assembly has fallen silent. Off. That's more like it, right? A picture of frightened looking pupils huddled together under the school stairs appear on the screen. They are holding a collection of objects, including a radio, a wind up alarm clock, a bucket, a calendar, a tin of beans, and a bottle of water. As Rhodes continues, his audience becomes more alarmed and distrustful. Off. The longer you spend in your refuge, the better. Listen to your radio. Do not go outside until the broadcasting authorities have told you it is safe to do so. Lights and sound snap out. Scene 3. Break time. Alec Booth bursts in onto the stage. He's showing off to Chris Holmes and Tracy Hansen. Danny and Andrew are talking on the other side of the stage. Alec, help, help. I'm on fire and all my skin is dropping off. Tracy, think you're funny, don't you? Alec, please, somebody. I'm about to crack it. I need the kiss of life. Tracy, you'll be lucky. Alec pretends to die with his hands clasped around his throat. Tracy and Chris ignore him. Alec gets up again. Attention switches to Danny and Andrew. Sophie Cartwright enters and approaches them. Sophie to Danny. Are you doing anything 2 weeks on Saturday? Andrew. Depends. Sophie. I was talking to Danny. Are you Danny? Danny. Depends. Sophie. I'm having a sleepover for my 15th. There's gonna be a massive stage in the garden with a band. Then a video while we have pizza and stuff. Andrew. I'll come. Sophie. I don't think so, Bukowski. There's only room for 25, so I have got to keep it to closest friends. Danny. Since when have we been closest friends? Andrew. She's hard pushed, mate. Either that or she fancies you. Alec comes over. Alec. Mocking her. Look who it is. Sophie the supermodel. Think you're it, don't you? Sophie. Don't hate me 'cause I'm beautiful. Alec. Sarcastically. Don't worry. Are you gonna invite me to this party then? Sophie. Fully booked. Sorry. Scene 4. Kershaw's farm. Lieutenant Renton is giving a medical demonstration to the civil defense team. Renton. Conditions would undoubtedly be primitive and, in these circumstances, even a basic knowledge of medicine would become invaluable. Light Fowler. How much radiation can you soak up before it kills you? Renton. Anything over 200 radiations would seriously impair the body's immune system. Doses of 300 radiations and above would almost certainly be fatal. Stroud. Did you understand any of that? Walker. What's to understand? If you are in here, you live. If you are out there, you fry. How long will we have to get here? Laycock. Not long enough, probably. Walker. What if anything should happen to Commissioner Finch? Who would be in charge then? Renton. Strictly speaking, that would be me. I have been instructed to remain in the shelter until the current political situation has blown over. Laycock. Make yourself at home. This could go on for years. Stroud, how are we supposed to help people if we are stuck down here? Finch, after 2 weeks, we'll be able to return to the surface. Renton, for very limited periods. Stroud, what do we do then? Finch, assess the situation and act accordingly. Walker, spoken like a true politician. Finch, when the time comes, you'll find there is more to me than just a politician. Councillor Walker. Renton, if the time comes. Walker, let's hope none of us live to find out. A siren blasts out. The bunker flashes red and green. The team freeze in blind panic. Blackout. Sudden silence. Scene 5. The bombs. A deep, resonant rumbling sound begins to rise. There is an ear-splitting crack, followed by a thunderous bang. The moving image of a mushroom cloud appears on the screen. The image freezes. Silence again, and then the sound of a violent wind. The shadow man appears, speaking over the sound. Images of flattened houses appear on the screen. Shadow man. The sound of living hatred, devouring lives, breaking souls, blasting bodies apart. The wind dies down, and it rages on, long into the silence, effortless and forever, until only fear remains. You can't put an atom together again. For more videos on the same topic and many other novels and play scripts, please subscribe my channel, Learners on Board. Thank you for watching.